What if I told you that Wall Street has been quietly taking up to 28% of your retirement savings through fees that are deliberately hidden in the fine print? According to the AARP, over 80% of 401k participants have no idea what fees they're paying. I spent 3 months investigating how these fees work, and what I found was honestly disturbing. But more importantly, I discovered how to cut these fees by more than half in less than 30 minutes. If you have a 401k or are thinking about starting one, this information could literally be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. What if I told you that tiny 1% fee, something that seems completely insignificant, could actually cost you over $250,000 by retirement? Let's do the math together, because this might be the most expensive 1% you ever encountered. Picture two identical 401k accounts. Both starts at zero when you're 25 years old. Both receive $500 monthly contributions. Both earn the same 9.7% annual return before any fees get taken out. The only difference? Account A pays the industry standard of 1% management fee, while account B pays just 0.1% for a low-cost index fund. That 0.9% difference seems so trivial, right? What's 1% between friends? Well, after the first year, the difference is barely noticeable. Account A has about $6,035, while account B has $6,090, a whopping $55 difference. Big deal. But let's fast forward to age 35, 10 years later. Account A has grown to $83,500, while account B sits at around $87,800. The gap has widened to over $4,300. Still not life-changing money, but definitely enough for a nice vacation. Now jump ahead to age 45. Account A has $249,000. Account B has $276,000. That's a $27,000 difference. Getting serious now, right? By age 55, account A has $568,000, while account B has grown to $669,000. The gap over $101,000. And by retirement age at 65, account A ends up with around $1.19 million, while account B reaches a staggering $1.48 million. The final difference, nearly $290,000, all because of a seemingly insignificant 1% fee difference. The Department of Labor has actually studied this. They estimated that a 1% difference in fees reduces your retirement income by 28% over a lifetime. That's more than a quarter of your potential retirement money gone. But here's where it gets real sneaky. That 1% expense ratio you might see on your statement, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Most 401k plans layer on additional hidden fees that never see explicitly broken out. That's usually an administrative charge of around 0.5% for record keeping and plan administration. Then there might be an advisory fee of about 1%. If your plan is to use financial advisors, don't forget transaction costs of approximately 0.2% when funds buy and sell investments within your account. All these percentages stack up on top of that visual expense ratio. So your 1% fee might actually be 2.7% when all is said and done. And at 2.7%, that same account from our example would end up with only about $716,000 at retirement, less than half what the low-cost option would have provided. The craziest part? According to the AARP surveys, about 80% of 401k plan participants have absolutely no idea what fees they're paying, or even how to find this information. The financial industry has perfected the art of hiding these fees in plain sight. They'll bury fee disclosure in a 40-page document with tiny print. They'll use confusing terminology like expense ratio, 12B-1 fees, and load charges instead of just saying we're taking your money. And they'll never show you the actual dollar amount you're paying, just percentages that seem harmlessly small. Want to know how bad it really is? The average American with $100,000 401k balance is losing about $2,000 every single year to fees they never see or approve. That's not a one-time cost. That's $2,000 this year, $2,000 next year, and so on, growing larger as your balance grows. Think about what you would do if someone walked up to you on January 1st each year, asked for $2,000 just to hold on to your money. You'll tell them to get lost. But when it's hidden in percentages and buried in statements, we don't even notice that it's happening. Here's the disturbing part about your 401k plan that no one's telling you. Your own employer is probably funding you into investment options that cost way more than necessary. Those default funds they've selected, they're not always chosen with your best interest in mind. Let me break it down. What's happening behind the scene? When your company sets up a 401k plan, they typically work with a plan provider who offers a selection of funds. But here's where it gets sketchy. Most employers automatically enroll workers into actively managed funds that charge fees 5 to 10 times higher than what you could be paying. We're talking about paying 0.44% on average for actively managed funds, when compared to index funds charge just 0.05%. That's nearly 9 times more expensive. You might be thinking, well, I'm paying more for better performance, right? That's what they want you to believe. But here's the bombshell. From S&P Global's 2020 study, 89% of actively managed large cap funds actually underperformed the S&P 500 over a 10-year period. Let that sink in. You're paying premium prices for funds that perform worse than their cheaper alternatives, nearly 9 times out of 10. Why would your company do this? It comes down to a web of financial relationship that most employees never see. Plan providers often have partnerships with fund companies that pay them to promote their more expensive options. Your employer might be getting administrative cost breakdowns or other incentives to include certain funds in your plan. I'm not saying your HR department is deliberately trying to hurt your retirement. They're just part of a system designed to extract maximum profit from your hard-earned money. Let's look at what this means in real numbers. If we compare two typical 401k options side by side, an actively managed large cap fund and an S&P 500 index fund, the difference is striking. The actively managed fund might charge 0.75 to 1.5%, while delivering lower returns than the index fund charging just 0.05%. And this pattern repeats across nearly every fund category in most 401k plans. So how do you fix this? First, you need to find out exactly what you're paying. This information exists, but they don't exactly put it on billboards. You need to review your plan's fee disclosure documents, which your employer is legally required to provide. It outlines all fees associated with your plan, including those hidden administrative and investment management fees. Don't want to dig through the dense paperwork? There's an easier way. Tools like Personal Capital offer a free retirement fee analyzer that calculates the expense ratios of all your investments and shows exactly how these fees impact your long-term wealth. It takes about 15 minutes to set up, and the results might shock you. Once you know what you're paying, it's time for a great fund swap. Look at your 401k investment options and identify the lowest cost alternatives. Most plans will have at least some index fund options buried in their lineup. For example, if your plan offers both the Super Growth Actively Managed Fund charging 0.95% and the S&P 500 Index Fund charging 0.08%, make the switch is a no-brainer. Let's walk through a real example. Let's say your 401k plan offers these options. Company Default Global Opportunity Fund, 1.1% fee. Alternative Total Market Index Fund, 0.06% fee. By simply logging into your account and reallocating your investments from the default options to the index fund, you'll just cut your fees by over 94%. This whole process takes less than 30 minutes. You never have to leave your existing 401k plan. The payoff? Simply switching from your plan's default funds to low-cost index options within the same 401k can cut your fees by over 50%. potentially saving you more than $100,000 by retirement. That's money that stays in your account instead of financing some funds manager vacation home. So here's the shocking reality. We've all been victims of what could be called the biggest ongoing financial heist in America. The Department of Labor estimates that hidden 401k fees cost employees a staggering $100 billion annually. That's not a typo. $100 billion with a B. Silently siphoned from hardworking Americans every single year. Look, I'm not saying you should empty your 401k tomorrow, but you absolutely need to take control of what's happening to your money. As attorney Miriam puts it, employees have an obligation to ask the right questions and have every right to know what are we paying for and what are we getting. The financial industry has built this perfect system where they can legally take your money while keeping you in the dark. But now you know better. Check your fees today, move your money to those low-cost index funds. If your plan options are terrible, seriously, consider an IRA. Your future self will thank you because that money belongs in your pocket, not Wall Street's.